Just to preface this video, the raw footage for this plan with me was 5 hours long, so suffice it to say we have a lot to get into.
But I don't want to go among mad people.
Oh, you can't help that. Most everyone's mad here.
Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel. We are starting this May plan with me quite unconventionally because as you can see we are not in my bullet journal. But I've definitely used this technique before on my channel. Basically, I drew a character on sticker paper because I intend to color her with alcohol markers instead of water-based markers, and then when she's completely done I will stick her into my bullet journal and we can get on with the rest of the spreads. But who is this character, you may ask? And in case you couldn't tell from the sketches on my May journal spreads, this is Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and that is basically what my theme for May is. While pondering my theme ideas, I always have like an ongoing list in my notes app, and I have kind of thought about an Alice in Wonderland theme for a while now, but it never seemed like the right month to do it. However, personally for me, I always feel like May months, like in my bullet journal, need to be really colorful, like bright, bold colors, probably with a lot of black and white contrast and really make things pop. And really, what better way to have a lot of crazy chaotic colors than an Alice in Wonderland theme? So I've been holding off on doing this for a couple months now, but I'm super excited to finally put this one in my bullet journal, try out these spreads, and I'm super excited to show you how this final theme turns out. So like I said, here's my color palette. Lots of bright colors, especially reds and blues, because of course that is the color of Alice's dress. It's blue, and then red goes with the roses, and then I also use a little bit of gold to match her hair, and then as you'll see eventually, I'm actually going to be using a lot of black and white checker. There's a certain pattern, I don't remember what it's called, I'll put a picture here on the screen, but it's like almost an elongated checker. They're like diamonds, and this one I think is more common with the Alice in Wonderland designs. However, I am more of a checkered person and I feel like it was easier to draw, especially with the dot grid of the journal. So as you'll see, I'll add in a lot of black and white checkers into this theme as well. I cannot take full credit for this cover page design. I did take absolute inspiration from this picture right here. The artist is Prickly Alpaca. She is an amazing creator and I just love her designs. So I definitely took a little bit of inspiration from her just to start off this theme, and then everything else did mostly come from my head. However, whenever I plan out any bullet journal theme, I always like to pull up Pinterest and grab some inspiration. So my Pinterest is always linked down below if you want to check it out. And in my bujo inspo board is where I have all the pictures that I used as reference for this particular bullet journal setup. If you've been subscribed to me for a while, and if you're not, by the way, definitely go subscribe down below, but in March of this year, I did a very similar system where I drew a ballerina on sticker paper, used alcohol markers to color her, and then stuck it into my bullet journal afterwards. And I always love using alcohol markers in my bullet journal because of how bright and bold the colors are, and I can usually get different types of techniques of coloring with them, partially because they are not as streaky as water-based markers, so they blend a lot better. So especially when I'm drawing skin or fabric, I really want to make sure that I can get a nice solid wash of color down first, so the alcohol markers are really helpful with that. But I also decided to do this because, as you'll see in a few minutes, I'm going to be doing a lot of scrapbooking in my bullet journal theme this month, and I wanted to make sure Alice was backed by a lot of different random papers and ephemera. So I had to make sure she was on a sticker, that way I can overlay her over the different pieces of paper that are going to be in my bullet journal cover page. But this drawing is pretty much done. I like to add a lot of shadows and depth into everything, and of course a white gel pen just to highlight all of the little touches. But here's a little close-up of what she looks like. I'm actually super happy. This is one of my favorite parts of the entire setup. And let me know down below what you think, even down to the little sparkles in her tights. Ugh, I'm obsessed with this particular drawing. So like I said, I've been thinking of an Alice in Wonderland theme for a while, and I was scrolling on Etsy trying to find some ephemera that's specifically Alice in Wonderland themed. So these squares right here are digital downloads that I purchased from Etsy. Super cheap. They were really like $2 or $3 for a pack of 15 patterns that you can print at home. They're from the shop Frou Craft, and I'll put a link down below to them. They have amazing designs, and this was super easy just to download and print, and the files are super high quality, and they of course have many other designs than just just Alice in Wonderland. But this also inspired a lot of my color palette for this month. As you'll see, the blues and the red/pinks really match the vibe of the particular ephemera, and also there are like clocks on there in a goldish color that I also used eventually in my bullet journal spreads. I will admit I really didn't want too much brown and tan. I really wanted to lean into the black and white contrast, and I felt like brown was a little bit too much. So you'll notice that there are a couple pieces of brown paper that I suppose can technically match with the color scheme because she has like tan skin, so it kind of works with the color palette, but truly I did not want to lean on the brown so much as the black and the red/pink and the blue within the theme. So as you can see, I am just kind of figuring out my process here. I was really trying to be very transparent with this video, so I didn't plan too much ahead of time. I was just kind of working as I went, as I was filming, and trying to layer different papers on top of each other and see how they kind of mesh. I definitely wanted to put a lot of black in the background to make sure she contrasted well with the base of this scrapbooking section, and then I also overlaid those little pieces of music because I felt like I didn't want just a big blob of color, and I don't know, music kind of goes with the Alice in Wonderland theme, I think. Being totally honest, I've never read the book nor seen the movie, or any of the movies, so go ahead and slander me in the comments if you want. I know that's kind of embarrassing, but I mean, I think I can get the vibe of Alice in Wonderland without having to watch the movie, and I'm still going to create a cute bullet journal spread without it, so there. Because the raw footage of this video was so long, I didn't have to put it in like a super fast speed as I was editing, so I'm sorry if this is a little chaotic to watch, but moment of truth is when I had to pull out the sticker paper and finally stick her on after adding all of the ephemera and washi tape, and definitely took a second, and I had to make sure that she kind of fit in the crease of the journal so that whenever it closed and opened, it wouldn't mess up the actual drawing. But after a little bit of tweaking and crossing fingers, she laid in just perfectly, and now it was time to outline all the sketches around the ephemera. So in this particular bullet journal theme, I really wanted to mesh both the scrapbooking style with my usual drawing style, and for these pictures and like clocks/cards and stuff behind her, I took inspiration from not only the ephemera from Frou Frou Craft that I purchased, but also just random pictures off of Pinterest to kind of see what the Alice in Wonderland aesthetic was, what are some main motifs that I could put into this background. So the main ones that I decided on that I'm probably going to be repeating throughout this bullet journal theme and then weeklies and such are the stopwatches, the cards, the roses, which I don't think is really specific to Alice in Wonderland, but if you know me, I gotta have a little bit of floral, and probably some dice, hats, bows. That sort of thing will also show up in later spreads throughout this theme. But as I'm starting to color this, you will see that I'm actually, well, okay, you won't maybe see, but I'm just gonna tell you, I was not happy with the colors of this page at all. Like I said, I really wanted to stick to a red, blue, black, and white color palette, but I had a lot of leaves and greenery surrounding Alice, and the amount of dark saturated green really made this page look super chaotic and messy. I could not figure out what it was. I was like, something about this page is wrong, and I just don't know what it is. It does not make me happy looking at it, but I decided to just put it away, come back to it a little later when I figured it out, so we'll come back to that one. Right now I'm working on the Dutch door on the right. As you'll see, I made all the spreads in this setup one big Dutch door because I haven't done it since February and it was kind of fun to play around with. So I used the ephemera to just create a big strip on the right, which was super easy because I didn't actually have to draw anything. I just cut and pasted. And then I used a black marker to make these tabs overlaying. I kind of wanted to do these tabs in color, but I felt like it would be a little bit too busy if they were in color, and the black contrasted well over the busy white paper on the right. I am using alcohol markers for this, but as you'll see, they do bleed through the paper. However, since they are double-sided, it didn't really matter that they bled because I would be coloring on that side too. So it didn't really matter, but I do appreciate the alcohol markers because they have such a dark saturated color. It was super easy to just create a harsh block on each of the tabs. So now we're finally moving on to a different spread than the cover page. So right now I'm working on these first little Dutch door opening, and it has the goal page on the left and the gratitude page on the right. I've definitely found a rhythm of the pages I like to use in my bullet journals every month, and I've definitely thought about including something different, like possibly a health tracker, so that might actually show up next month because I forgot to do it here. But other than that, I always need a little gold section, I always need a gratitude section, habit trackers, calendar, and an expenses, and that's basically what I'm going to be doing in this video. So you'll definitely see that I have a lot of consistency in my bullet journal because I happen to make the same spreads all the time. So going back to the cover page real quick, I did go over all of those green leaves in black, and look at how much better it looks. I just feel like it ties together so well. Like, all the color palette makes so much sense now. There's not some random green in the middle of it. I feel like we're flipping back and forth so much right now, so I'm sorry this is super hectic, but yeah, I'm really happy with how I changed that cover page. Sometimes it just takes a second to step back and look at things before you make a decision that you're going to regret. And speaking of a decision I'm going to regret, this is one situation where I should have gone back and rethought things, because I'm about to draw the and I mean the ugliest rabbit you've ever seen. I was paying a lot of attention to the color palettes as I was making this bullet journal setup, as I mentioned before, so I didn't really want to add too much brown because, like I said earlier, that was kind of I didn't really want to focus on the brown sections. But that meant that I drew a gray bunny, and then I added green, and then I added purple, and then I added more green, and it just kind of became a really gross mess. I feel so bad. He looks so gross, and I'm so sorry. I am most likely going to go in a little later with sticker paper, redraw it, and then cover it, maybe even color it with alcohol markers, because I do love those a lot. But I just kept adding things and it kept making it worse and worse and worse, and I just feel like he needs a redo. He needs a restart. So that's not actually in this video. Unfortunately, he doesn't stay like this until the end, but don't you worry, I will probably redo him, and maybe I'll even make a reel out of it, because I feel like he deserves a second chance here. He did not need to look that ugly. But I still think the idea was really cute of him hanging off of that little clock and just dangling in the corner while still leaving a lot of room on that page for any goals I need to set for the month of May. So moving on to the calendar page, I have a couple little designs on this one. I have a little key and some playing cards in the top right, and then I'm going to have a hat in the bottom left that's going to have the checkered little ribbon on it, just like the front cover page did. I will say for this page, I was really debating how I wanted to lay out everything, because obviously there are 7 days in a week, so I didn't know if I wanted to make 4 boxes on one side of the Dutch door and 3 on the other, which is what I usually do, or if I wanted to just do one big in the middle. And I figured that I might as well just do one in the middle, because it just makes things more symmetrical, and that is really my priority here, is to make things look pretty and aesthetic and not functional. That's a joke, by the way, but yeah, I decided to just do it in the middle and just make things a little difficult for myself, but it does look nicer. The problem with doing a Dutch door page like this is that everything seems a little cramped, because there's not much room to add all the designs and drawings that you want, along with a lot of margin space. If you watched my last video where I showed you guys how I design and lay out a weekly spread, I definitely talked a lot about how I wanted margin space in all of my spreads. I think it just makes the spreads look lighter and less cluttered and stressed, and so I like a lot of space on my spreads, but unfortunately, because I cut off half the spreads to make the Dutch door, that's really not a luxury I get to use. So I tried to make the most of it and just play around with designs and try to make sure there were definitely some white gaps on either side of the calendar. However, with this particular Alice in Wonderland themed, I feel like the theme just lends itself to a chaotic, kind of cluttered mess. So I definitely allowed myself to keep adding a little more washi tape, a little more doodles, fill up that extra space. Not completely, but just enough to kind of add to the whimsical and busyness of the theme that is Wonderland. Now, as I am designing this spread, you may notice there are little white blobs in the middle of the page. When I was sketching out my theme spreads for May, I realized that for some reason I had a yellow stain on the ruler that I was using. I don't know if it was because one of the markers may have leaked in my stationery cart or something like that, but I had to wipe it off. But I only realized that because I was making little yellow marks all over the cover page, and they cannot come off for anything. So the option was either use some acrylic paint maybe and cover it, but I couldn't find any bright white acrylic paint, so for now I just use a lot of white washi tape and kind of layer it over it, and it looks a little better, but now that I'm mentioning it, I'm sure you can see it, and it definitely is a little bit of an eyesore for me too, because there are just those weird little patches in the center. But again, maybe I'll go back later and put some acrylic paint over it, but really whenever I fill in the calendar with the black pen, it hopefully won't even be that noticeable. While I really love this theme, that was kind of one big problem with all the spreads, because I feel like my design concept was there. I love the color palette, I love the ideas, but I felt like everything was a little bit sloppy. Like with the rabbit, with those little messes on the calendar, it just rubbed me the wrong way. So my favorite page out of all of these is the cover page, because I feel like it was just the best executed. It was very clean. I can't say simple, but it was definitely very clean. And everything else in these little Dutch door pages felt a little cramped. But that's just how it works sometimes. You gotta live and learn, and I am still really happy with how this theme came out, so I'm not really complaining that much. My camera did cut out a second there, so I'm sorry that you guys missed a little bit. Basically, I just went over everything. On the top, I'm gonna have 8 habits this month, which is definitely an expanded amount, but I have a couple new habits I want to set, including Duolingo, which I've been on. Literally, I just hit my 30-day Duolingo streak, so whoop whoop, I'm so excited. But that's definitely something I want to track, and hopefully by next month I will have my 60-day Duolingo streak. And then at the bottom I just have a simple expenses tracker, which is honestly getting a little short. For the expenses tracker that I made for April, I actually ran out of room at the bottom, so I might need to add a couple extra rows in my June setup, but for now this will probably work for me. The last little touch is using my Phonemo thermal printer to print out this little quote, "We're all a little mad here." And if you want to check out the thermal printer, non-sponsored, but the link is down below. Super easy, just type in the app and it just comes out and prints really automatically. And I think it's super cute and just perfectly ties together this Alice in Wonderland theme. So with that, I'm so tired from talking so long, but I feel like this theme is finally done. Cover page is my favorite part. I am obsessed with how it's turned out, and everything else looks pretty decent too, you know. So I hope you guys really enjoyed, got some good inspiration. As always, let me know in the comments below what your May bullet journal theme is, and subscribe if you haven't already, because I post bullet journaling videos like this every week. And with that, I gotta put this video to a close, but if you've yet to see my last video where I showed you guys how I design my weekly spreads and any spread in my bullet journal, I'll have it here on the screen for you to watch next, so go check it out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Toodles!